researching it, before we shot the film. But my experience with Kevin Smith wasn't. I didn't have much experience growing up. I think when I was in high school, someone had lent me Mallrats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think that was the first Kevin Smith film that I'd seen, and I love Mallrats. I've always been a big fan of Mallrats. Then I think it was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I think a scene after that, and I didn't really realise at the time that Jay and Kevin were the same guys in Mallrats. I didn't even know that Kevin Smith was Silent Bob.
Wow.
For a long time, yeah, I didn't. I was like, I knew the name, but I didn't know who he was. And there was a couple other Kevin Smith films I'd watched when I was younger. I think I'd seen Chasing Amy and Dogma. But again, I didn't quite realise that it was all a connected universe. Again, I didn't know Kevin Smith had penned, all these films. But certainly now, from researching Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith and things like that, I've got much bigger appreciation for what he's done. And I've watched a lot of the films now. I've seen Clerks a lot of times. Again, just in preparation of when we did Shooting Clerks. But I've got bigger respect, bigger appreciation for Kevin now, and as I say, I've rewatched a lot of the films back, and just I think because I'm older, they appeal to me a lot more now as well.
Yeah, I can. It's pretty funny actually, because I just thought about this just now for the first time. I'm surprised this didn't come up before. That Kevin was ahead of its time when it comes to the view askew universe, because now we're living in a world with like the MCU and the DCU where everything's connected. And yeah. Kevin was ahead of his time and did that before it was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of things Kevin did was not really considered cool. So, but yeah, definitely it wasn't something that was really a thing back then, but it certainly is now, as you say, with Marvel and DC and even just I can't even think of any other franchises, but there's a lot of franchises now that have that shared universe, which it wasn't a thing before, was it?
No, it wasn't, and it's actually pretty cool. What's it like to work with Kevin Smith for this movie? Did you actually get to meet him and work with him?
So Kevin took a bit more of a back seat with this sort of production. I mean, it is all predominantly it's Chris Downey, Ryan James, Brett Murray. These guys who had helped piece this feature together. I think originally Kevin was going to take more of a predominant role in the film, but then he took a step back, I think, a little bit. I don't know too much about it, but as far as I understand, he didn't want to be too involved because even though he'll admit himself he is the number one Kevin Smith fan, I think he thought it was maybe a little bit too pretentious having a big part to play in your own biopic. But he's been helpful in the way that if they've needed help with anything or advice and whatnot, I think he's been quite forthcoming in that respect. I mean, he and a lot of the original Clerks guys have cameos in the film. We met Kevin a couple of years ago. He was doing a show in Manchester, which he wasn't coming up to Scotland, where we are based. But the nearest was Manchester, which is like a 5-hour drive from Edinburgh. And he invited us to come see the show. He was like, come see the show, we'll give you comp tickets, you can meet us after. So that was pretty exciting. We met Kevin for the first time, and I met Jason as well, which is always, I think, interesting for any actor to meet the person that you play, in a film or whatnot. So that was quite interesting. But he's a really lovely guy. Obviously likes to talk, as do I. But it was kind of somewhat surreal meeting him, but a really, really nice guy. The director, Chris Downey, had said that, don't ever, the old adage, don't ever meet your heroes. But then Chris said, unless your hero is Kevin Smith.
I like that rule. I like that one.
Yeah.
I've met Jay Mewes personally, actually. They did a Jay and Silent Bob Get Old here in Milwaukee. It was actually connected with the Super Groovy cartoon movie. They did a screening of the movie, and then they did Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. And they came here, and Jay, to his credit, and I will give him full credit for this, it was pouring rain after this show was over. And we decided we're going to go outside. We found where they parked the bus. They parked the big bus outside the building, and we all hung out outside underneath this canopy, but it's raining. Jay, to his credit, there was an hour-long thing inside for VIPs. He came out and made sure every single one of us got pictures and autographs. and there was like a 30 or 40 of us outside, and it was so nice of him to do.
I think that's just the kind of guys they are. They just. I think Kevin especially really appreciates where he is. A lot of people don't in that sort of industry. And one thing that sort of stood out to me was we screened Shooting Clerks in Orlando at the Orlando Film Festival, and I was fortunate enough to attend with some of the cast and crew. And we were in Florida for about a week for the screening. And beforehand, we had watched the Bob Hawke documentary, Film Hawk, and Kevin he's featured heavily in that, and he spoke very highly of Bob Hawke, who again I've had the fortune of meeting Bob a couple of times, really lovely guy, and he speaks really highly of him, and he gets quite emotional about it. And I think I can't remember exactly what he says, and I don't want to paraphrase because I'll probably get it completely wrong, but he just comes across as being very humble at the fact that he is this guy who had a dream of being a film director, and he took a risk. He could have bankrupted himself making Clerks, and people like Bob Hawke and other people had seen the film and took a chance on him. And I think the whole thing is that he's very humbled by that, and he still remains very humble that he's in this position. So I guess when people come out to see him and Jason and do their shows, they recognise that and appreciate that as well. Where you think a lot of people in that position probably wouldn't. They wouldn't give a shit about people who are waiting outside for hours to meet them, and we just go straight in the tour bus or back to the hotel. But these guys, and it comes across when you meet them that they really respect and appreciate how much people enjoy them and their work and are there to see them as well. And it definitely comes across,
Yeah, I agree with that 100% actually, and it shows the class, because like you said, there's not many people that have that kind of class for their fans, because they and I listen to Kevin's podcasts all the time, and he openly says, if it wasn't for the fans, he wouldn't be where he is.
Yeah,
which is a true statement. I think a lot of celebrities should actually remember that sometimes.
Yeah, I think some people can forget that. They can forget maybe where they came from or where they started. It wasn't always champagne and a high flying lifestyle for a lot of people. Everyone has to start somewhere. I guess some people maybe forget that.
It's true, especially if you come up from nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, I actually have to say that Chris, you actually to yourself, you seem like a very good guy, and I appreciate you talking to me, because I know you're a very busy person. You're extremely busy.
Anytime, man.
You told me this actually back when we were trying to plan this. We actually scheduled this like 3 times before we sat and did this. And by the way, you mentioned Scott Giaffo. I want to tell the people listening right now that this is a Monday episode. On the next episode of this show, we sit down with Scott Giaffo.
Brilliant. He's a fantastic guy as well.
Yeah.
Again, I've had the good fortune of meeting Scott. He was at the Jersey screening that we had in November. Really lovely guy. So yeah, you'll enjoy speaking to him. I don't know if you've met Scott before.
No, I have not met him. We just talked over like this. We did a conversation just like this.
Yeah. No, he's a lovely guy. I sort of spoke to him a lot online before we'd met. But he's fantastic. I have to be honest as well. It's hard for me to pick a performance in the film, in Shooting Clerks, that I like. My favourite performance, shall I say? But I have to be honest, he's up there for me. I think he plays Don Smith, Kevin's dad, and absolutely just nails the performance. A lot of heart in the performance, and it shows you really what a great actor he is. So when you ever get the chance to watch Shooting Clerks, certainly pay attention to his depiction of Kevin's dad, because it's fabulous. He's excellent in that. And in the amount of times I've been to screenings now, I've been to so many screenings of Shooting Clerks, and I don't know, for me, as I say, because I really enjoyed the film, I think it gets better and better, and I'm a big fan. If I wasn't in the film, I'd still be a big fan of it. But I think every time I watch it, Scott Giaffo is great in it. Really, really great performance.
Well, that's awesome to hear, actually. So, everyone listening, enjoy that show as our next show. Chris, you want to give everyone your information, Twitter information, whatever you want to give plugs?
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Both got the same handle. I like a bit of synergy, so I managed to create the same one. It's Chris Bain. So if you saw me in the street and you went, it's Chris Bain, that's essentially my name. Although you probably wouldn't recognise me in the street. But, if you did, you might say that.
Well, I see what you did there. So, so that being said, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate your time and coming on and talking like this. Thank you so much.
No, anytime. You're more than welcome.
Yes, we'll have to do this again, maybe for the next movie or something. We'll figure it out.
Making Mallrats.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Nah, you too, my man.
All right, and that was Chris Bain, everybody. I'm well aware that we didn't talk about the minute at all. Because, well, I really just wanted Chris on the talk, and he was a good guy and a good interview, and really a fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, and he took some time out to do this. So, like I said, Wednesday, Scott Schiaffo will be here, and we'll get into the movie more and talk about the actual movie, and Cal will be back for that episode as well. Till then, here we go. Our show is a part of the Fill in the Void Podcast Network, available on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Player FM, etc., etc., etc. You can find us everywhere. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Clerks Minute. Leave a rating and review, and we'll read it when we have a chance to, probably on the Patreon show. Patreon.com/Clerks Minute. Support the show. We need help supporting the show. We're going to do a monthly show over there. The moment we're breaking down the Clerks animated series. So, come over there and take a look at us and listen to that show. Till next time, Kyle will be back on Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening to this on a Monday morning. I'm Blake. He'd normally be Kyle. Have a good day, everybody.
Smoking weed, doing coke, drinking beers, rolling fatties, smoking blunts. Who smokes the blunts? We smoke the blunts, rolling blunts and smoking.
Odd trait, we're crybabies. Man, we are bad. Our daughters' weddings are going to be a mess because we're not going to even.
Our daughters are getting married together.
So here's what I want to say about Bob. Bob is a friend, first and foremost. But for me, Bob is a mentor. See what happens? I cry and then I get better. I never had a mentor before. But he taught me way back in 1990 when I started as a programmer. He taught me that film had many faces and many styles. And he taught me as a programmer, I had a responsibility to remember that. And we brought him on to help us with Sundance much in the early years. And I think it was, Sundance would not be the same without Bob Hawke's influence over this whole thing. And that's all I'm going to say, because that's all I can get out of this point. I'm going to actually introduce the directors who had a lot to do with this as well. Do you want to say anything?
Every once in a while in your life you meet somebody who takes you to a completely different place, an absolute stranger. What you're going to see is a movie about somebody who's changed so many lives simply because he's passionate about film. This movie is so wonderful. I don't just say that because I'm in it. I enjoy myself in it and stuff. But at the same time, my hats go off to the boys, man, who Coop's going to bring up, because honestly, I'm ashamed. This is a movie I should have made. This man is my hero, my fucking legend and stuff. But I'm so glad that these guys exist because they made the movie that Bob Hawke deserves. Introduce them.
So our directors.
Right now, it is my great pleasure to welcome a close friend of Bob Hawke and one of the giants of independent filmmaking. Please welcome Mr. Kevin Smith. That giant thing is a fat joke, I assure you. Thanks for being here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. This movie is perfect for Outfest because this is a film about a life spent in film as well as a life spent being just gay as fuck. So you're going to enjoy the hell out of this movie. I go way back with the subject of the film, as you'll see in the flick itself. Bob Hawke discovered Clerks. Without Bob Hawke, I wouldn't be standing here. I probably wouldn't have even ever driven by this building because I wouldn't be in Los Angeles. None of the things that have happened over the 22 years since we made Clerks would have happened if Bob hadn't been in the audience that day. Ironically, it was a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. Same thing, man. So as I was driving over here, My wife's like, "Where'd you go?" And I was like, "I'm going to the DJ to intro Bob's movie."